When a woman in Pakistan contemplates walking out of a marriage, she is told, "Sabr karo, rishta nibhao." She is told कि मर्द ऐसे ही होते हैं. She is told to put herself in her husband's shoes because he's been raised to be the provider of the family, to be her protector. And whatever happened, he must have a valid reason for it. Women are constantly told to put their own needs on the back burner, and this is justified on empathy, to be more understanding, to be more forgiving. उसने तलाक की धमकी दे दी तो क्या हुआ? तलाक दी तो नहीं ना? थप्पड़ मार दिया तो क्या हुआ? एक थप्पड़ ही तो था ना? उसने शराब पी हुई थी, हल्का सा गुस्सा आ गया होगा. मर्दों को कभी कभी ऐसा हो जाता है. माफ़ कर दो. तुम्हें क्या पता कि वो कौन कौन से टेंशन से डील कर रहा है. बी एम्पैथेटिक टुवर्ड्स हिम, क्योंकि अगर तुमने इस रिश्ते को नहीं निभाया तो लोग क्या कहेंगे? लोग ये कहेंगे that you didn't compromise enough, that you were weak, because strong women are more tolerant, that empathetic women are more tolerant. लोग ये कहेंगे that you were too selfish, and that if you had more empathy, you would have been able to make your relationship work. So what makes someone empathetic? To be empathetic is to logically understand the emotions and emotional experiences of others. It is to identify with what the person is thinking or feeling, and to accurately try to understand that person's perspective. To be empathetic can also go one step further for those who actually experience another person's emotions. So to not just identify with, but to also share those feelings with that person. For years, we have been told that women are more empathetic than men. But there's an important footnote there that we tend to miss. The most common method of measuring empathy is through self-reporting questionnaires, the results of which almost always show women scoring higher than men. But this may not be because of inherent biological differences between men and women, but because of gender stereotypes and gender role expectations that each gender feel that they need to oblige with in society, especially when it comes to empathy and emotionality. Emotions and empathy are therefore very, very closely linked. The problem is that we tend to confuse being emotional with lacking emotional control. So when we talk about gendered differences, it's not that women feel more emotion than men. Both men and women feel emotion. They feel compassion, guilt, fear, love. The difference that defines a woman as being more emotional is that she outwardly expresses these emotions, because of which she is perceived as having less control over the way these emotions may influence her thoughts or her behaviors or her decisions. So the common belief that women are just wired to be more emotional than men may actually be a product of societal observation, of women being given the normative freedom to outwardly express these emotions, and not that she's feeling a wider range or a greater intensity of emotion internally. And the reason for this is that men are told that they cannot show emotion, that a display of emotion is a sign of weakness. It doesn't add up to society's boxed-in ideas of masculinity. To be empathetic and to show emotion based on that empathy are considered to be too feminine. He's told, "Bhai, ladki ki tarah kyun ro rahe ho?" And he's told, "Dude, quit whining. What are you, on your period or something?" Because men in Pakistan, and arguably in most parts of the world, are likely to occupy roles of providers. And they're expected to display behaviors that are consistent with the demands of being a provider. They're expected to be strong, competent, invulnerable, and always in control. They are permitted to display behaviors relating to power, status, or achievements, but they are strongly discouraged from showing emotions such as fear, distress, or shame, because these emotions reflect vulnerability. And given that we tend to confuse being emotional with lacking emotional control, it also reflects femininity. So when a marriage is at the brink of collapse, the man is told, miss karao us bachchi ko, agli pakar. He is told कि उसे बता कि घर का मर्द तू है, उसके ये शोशे नहीं चलेंगे. And he is told कि अपनी बीवी को सीधा कर, उसको लाइन पर ला. He is never told to be empathetic towards her. He is told to control her. And at the same time, he isn't given the space to grieve. He isn't allowed to express sadness or to express loss. Instead, he's simply told to be a man, कि मर्द बन और आगे चल. Our society regulates empathy to perpetuate ideals of gender roles, and this is harmful to both men and women. It is harmful to men because we continue to enable behaviors and stereotypes that limit their expression of empathy and emotionality. We do this by telling him that it is unmanly to cry, that it is unmanly to even let out a whimper, that strength is only possible if it is absolutely devoid of any vulnerability. We force him to keep his emotions within, piling them up bit by bit for years, and then we ostracize him further if it gets to a point where he dares to ask someone for emotional support. We do this because we want to maintain control over gender roles. And to do that, we must ensure that our men fit societal expectations of masculinity. Regulating empathy along gender lines is also harmful to women, because we tell women that it is their responsibility, by virtue of the gender that they identify with, to be more understanding, to be more forgiving, to be more compromising, even in situations that are harmful to them, both physically or emotionally. And we base this on the empathetic nature of women. We tell her that if she stays in those situations, that would be a testament to her strength, because we misconstrue strength as the strength to compromise. We tell her that strong women are empathetic women who are able to understand the experiences of others and try to find a reason, or rather a justification, for why they treated her the way that they did. We do this because we want to maintain control over gender roles. And to do that, we must ensure that our women fit societal expectations of femininity. हम मर्द से ये कहते हैं कि रोना नहीं चाहिए. कभी ये क्यों नहीं कहते कि रुलाना नहीं चाहिए? हम कभी ये क्यों नहीं कहते कि मर्द भी इंसान है, उसको भी रोने की और एहसासात महसूस करने का हक है. हम औरत से ये कहते हैं कि वो पूरे घर का ख्याल रखे. कभी ये क्यों नहीं कहते कि वो अपना भी ख्याल रख सकती है? हम कभी ये क्यों नहीं कहते कि औरत भी इंसान है, उसको भी अपना ख्याल रखने का हक है? As a society, we expect women to show empathy even in the most traumatic situations. And yet, society does not grant her the same level of empathy as men. For a woman, even one wrongful action could define her entire existence in the eyes of society. She will be judged, she will be shamed, and she will be shunned. Men, on the other hand, are more easily forgiven for their mistakes. Their wrongful actions are more easily dismissed and justified because boys will be boys. But what's interesting is that even though we are expected to show far more empathy towards men, we still do not grant them the space and the freedom to display their own emotions. Even in the most traumatic situations, we do not allow him to feel, to sympathize, to empathize. So is it possible for us to be truly empathetic when we continue to perpetuate ideals of gendered normativity? Is it possible for us to truly show compassion when we continue to bind ourselves within the confines of masculinity and femininity? Empathy is not and should not be based on the gender that one identifies with. We should not pick and choose who deserves empathy, who to expect it from, and who to shame for either being too empathetic or not empathetic enough. Empathy is observed, it is learned, it is practiced, it is felt. It is what binds us together as friends, as family, and as partners. So we need to tell women that their strength is not defined by the extent to which they compromise. And we need to tell men that their strength is not defined by the extent to which they box in their emotions. And we need to tell both men and women that the harmful gendered expectations of empathy that have been imposed upon us by society need not be adhered to. We need to give women the freedom to be strong, and we need to give men the strength to be vulnerable.